This is the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. Soybean Cyst Nematode, or SCN, a serious threat to soybeans across the Buckeye State, and early detection is crucial to mitigating its impact on yields. The presence of SCN in a field, and more importantly, the SCN numbers, will determine the most effective management strategy. So it's vital to test your fields and know your SCN numbers. To talk more about that, as we talk about it on National Nematode Day, Horatio Lopez-Nicora, assistant professor in the Department of Plant Pathology at The Ohio State University. Horatio, great to see you. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, Ty. I'm very happy to be here.
I get Ohio State's nematode guy on National Nematode Day. That is an honor.
You know, it was just meant to be. It was just meant to be. Yeah, like you're mentioning, we're recording this October 1st. Today is National Nematode Day. The SCN Coalition launched for its second time, because this is our second anniversary that we are, can you say, celebrating National Nematode Day? Maybe, I don't know if happy National Nematode Day should be something we should say, but strategically, October, farmers are either starting in the midst or wrapping up with harvest. This was meant to raise awareness and put the most important economically damaging pathogen in North America and the top mind of growers. I'm done with harvest. I'm gonna pull a soil sample, send it to the nematology lab, test if I have soybean cyst nematode. If I do, how much? Know your numbers. And the SCN Coalition is very grateful receiving support from BASF, Bayer, and Syngenta to launch this National Nematology Day.
Yeah, I don't think there's a section in the Hallmark card for National Nematode Day, but maybe we work on that for year number 3, Horatio. What do you think? A greeting
That
card
sounds great.
for National Nematode Day. So for those who don't know, we have some listeners that may wonder what soybean cyst nematode is. What is SCN?
Yeah, it's an animal. It's an animal like you and me. It's an animal, but it's an animal that had adapted so well to penetrate the root of soybean plants and modify the cells in the root system. I mean, this animal can modify the cells in the root system to become sedentary. It cannot move anymore, and it will continue developing, feeding from the plant, hijacking the entire system of the soybean plant and making the plant just feed this nematode. And by doing so, we're losing yield. Now, the nematode has adapted so well to Midwest soybean production that in many cases, we can experience 30% or more of yield reduction with absolutely no above ground symptoms. So you can end up the season saying, I had the best soybean this year, yet you left more than 30% of the yield below ground. And sometimes talking about percentage doesn't make much sense. You know, on average year, you're leaving more than $300 an acre without realizing. And that's why this continues being the most important pathogen of soybean. Now, of course, you may be asking yourself, well, you're telling me that I may have a pathogen. It's a soil-borne pathogen. It inhabits the soil. Once I have it, I cannot get rid of it. I have to manage it. And you're also telling me that my soybean may look beautiful, yet I'm losing a lot of yield. What do I do? How do I manage this problem? Well, the SCN Coalition, and I'm referring to the SCN Coalition. The SCN Coalition is this public and private alliance that puts a lot of resources on a website that can be accessed through the scncoalition.com. A lot of information about nematode, why is the most important pathogen, the life cycle, how to sample, management strategies. I encourage you to go and visit that website, and to your audience as well. But what I was saying is that you know, the SCN Coalition will also recommend proactively manage this pathogen by sampling your field, taking a soil sample. knowing if you have it, hopefully not. And if you do, know your numbers. That's one of the slogans from the SCN Coalition, know your numbers. So how do we do this? Well, we're used to taking a soil sample. Normally we take a soil sample and we send it to the soil lab for soil fertility, nutrient analysis. So it's something very common. We know how to do it. It's a composite sample. We take a soil probe or a shovel. We take multiple soil cores. So we try to do this intensively across the field. We mix it in a bucket and then we put it in a bag and send it to the soil lab in this case. Well, that same soil samples that we take to send it to the soil lab, you can take a subsample of that and send it to the nematology lab. Now, fortunately, in Ohio, with support and funding from Ohio Soybean Council, my lab will process up to 2 samples free of charge for Ohio soybean growers. So they can complete a submission form, send it to the lab, and we will process that sample. We will return results, hopefully saying not detected. We did not detect soybean cyst nematode. But if we do, we will provide how much. And what growers wants to know is what's the numbers of eggs per 100 cc of soil. Some labs will still report numbers of cysts, but these cysts can be either empty or can be filled up with up to 600 eggs. So there's a lot of variability if we just report numbers of cysts per 100 cc of soil, cubic centimeter. That's a measurement of volume. So numbers of eggs is what you want to see in your results. With this information, you can start planning your management strategies. So how do we manage soybean cyst nematode? Well, planting a non-host crop, corn, for example. The nematode will not reproduce on corn. And as a matter of fact, planting corn after soybean in an SCN-infested field will reduce the population at the end of the season. Planting resistant varieties. Resistant is the best way to manage soybean cyst nematode. Unfortunately, some populations can adapt and reproduce on some sources of resistance. That's why we recommend to rotate sources of resistance, rotate different soybean varieties with resistance to soybean cyst nematode. Do not train this animal to feed on the same genetic material because it will adapt and will be able to reproduce. And then third, consider a seed treatment. We want to enhance the root health of soybean. We may have soybean cyst nematode in the field, but we also have other soil-borne pathogens that can threaten soybean production. We want to protect as much as we can our soybean root system.
What's the best time to do this test and get these samples sent to you guys?
That's a great question. You know, I receive this question a lot. When is the best time to sample for soybean cyst nematode? My immediate answer is, do you know if you have soybean cyst nematode? If the answer is no, right away, right there, you can, figure that out by going and pulling a sample. Now, when I say that, you may have those beans growing up and hitting your chest, and that's not very comfortable walking through those beans collecting a soil sample. So we normally recommend after harvest or before planting. But after harvest, you have the field very clean. You can walk that field, very easily pull sample. You probably are already doing it to send it to the soil lab. You can even see the rows of the soybeans, and you can stick the probe close to that rhizosphere, the root system, where a lot of soybean cyst nematode will be aggregated, and have a really good representation of what you have at the end of that season. So again, very strategically, National Nematode Day, October 1st. October is when we're starting or wrapping up our harvest, just bringing and raising this awareness to growers of, go out there, after you're done with harvest, pull a soil sample for SCN testing. Again, the SCN Coalition has a lot of information how to pull a soil sample. We normally recommend an area no larger than 20, 30 acres, multiple subsamples that will make up this composite sample. If you have an area of very, high area and low area in a field, very, very different topography, break those into 2 different samples. And then sometimes I very strategically suggest growers to sample where they may suspect they have soybean cyst nematode. So soybean cyst nematode will move with movement of soil. So entryways, area with very inclined slope where a lot of the rain water will wash soil. That's a good place. For some reason, high pH really enhance reproduction of the nematode. I will target those as well. Or when we're looking at our yield map and we have that area that consistently have been yielding low, what's going on there? I did everything and still it's yielding low. You may have soybean cyst nematode there. Pull a sample there, pull a sample in an area that you're happy with the yield, you will be able to compare. We were talking also about different organisms and other pathogens in the soil. There is evidence in the literature that soybean cyst nematode can interact with other soil-borne pathogens, the fungus that causes SDS, sudden death syndrome, for example. When you see very clear foliar symptoms of SDS, I normally recommend to sample that area as well. You may have soybean cyst nematode there. These are all strategies and ideas of where to target your soil sampling.
You mentioned those free tests, the 2 free tests that you guys will do for farmers across Ohio. And when farmers here, they might be leaving 30% on the table due to SCN. It's going to get their attention and want to make them understand what's going on in their fields and know their numbers, as you said. How does that program work? How can farmers learn more about getting those samples to you? And what do they need and what do they need to know?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have been offering this for 3 years, and we have been doing it with support and funding from Ohio Soybean Council. So we're very grateful for that. They just need to send their samples, pull a sample, put in a plastic bag. We recommend plastic bag, not paper bag. We don't want the soil to dry out. We want to also protect that soil sample from direct incidence of the sun and heat. So put it in a cooler or somewhere that it will be kept cool enough until it reaches the lab. And we have submission forms that can be found in our corn newsletters. We put information about soybean cyst nematode and this sampling that growers can access in our corn newsletters. This is Ohio State University Extension newsletter that comes every Monday. You can subscribe to that or just Google it, corn newsletter, and then you can, in any of the articles featuring SCN, you will be able to find that submission form. Or you can contact directly to Ohio Soybean Council and they will be able to provide this information as well.
Talking to Ohio State's nematode guy on National Nematode Day. How lucky can one guy get? Horatio Lopez Nicora, assistant professor in the Department of Plant Pathology at The Ohio State University. Great to have you on the podcast. Really valuable information, and I appreciate your time.
Yes, I'm very happy to be here. And, if I can just, mention one last thing that we have been doing a lot with the SCN Coalition. We recently launched a new tool. It's called the SCN Profit Checker. And sometimes, growers, agronomists, consultants may wonder, what do I do with this number? Okay, I have soybean cyst nematode. I know my number. How much may I be losing due to this pathogen? Well, the SCN Profit Checker is a calculator that runs on an algorithm of hundreds of thousands of research plots that it's informing this calculator. So you will input the numbers of soybean cyst nematode that you got in that field, pH that you normally will get from your soil analysis, percentage of sand that you will normally get from your texture analysis, and that will calculate what is the percentage of loss that you may be having in that field. And it will actually also give you an economic loss based on how much you were hoping to get and the price of beans in that year. So a great tool. Again, you will find it in the scncoalition.com, the website. When you go there, you will find the SCN Profit Checker Calculator. Definitely check that out.
Great information. Thanks, Horatio.
Thank you.
Find out how Nationwide Agribusiness can help you grow your business. Get to know the people with the experience and knowledge to help you. Whether you are looking to protect your farm or ranch from the ground up, or need someone who understands your changing commercial ag needs. Find out how to better manage the risks of your ag business, or how quickly you can get back to business. Learn how you can protect your next with Nationwide on your side.
Who feeds your need for new ideas for your family's best farm future? Ohio Farm Bureau. We work with our members to shape ag policy that will positively impact our industry. Farm Bureau is advancing business solutions to give you a competitive advantage. We help you gather information to stay ahead of important topics and technologies. Plus, Ohio Farm Bureau creates opportunities for growth. Ohio Farm Bureau, feeding your need for new ideas.
Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. Our guest, if you're in the horse industry, needs no introduction. But if you're not in the horse industry, you're going to learn a lot from Dr. John Mossbarger. He's with the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association. Dr. Mossbarger, great to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Ty.
Didn't mention he was in the OHHA Hall of Fame as of last year. So we've got a lot to talk about, Doc, when it comes to OHHA. Tell us about the organization and your role within it.
Well, the OHHA is a nonprofit organization, and the mission is to preserve, protect, and promote harness racing in the state of Ohio for all the owners, trainers, drivers, and fans.
Ohio has a deep history of harness racing, doesn't it?
Yes, Ohio has a very deep interest in harness racing. It's like the chicken and the egg. What came first, harness racing or the county fairs? For over 150 years, harness racing has been a family entertainment at the county fairs. There's over 65 county fairs in Ohio that have harness racing. So that means you probably can't drive 30 miles and can't find a fairgrounds with a harness track. And interesting, a little tip of trivia, in Richmond, Ohio, in 1905, the legendary Frank James, Jesse James' brother, was the starter of harness racing that day. That just tells you how far back this goes.
You don't go quite that far back, Dr. Mossbarger, but you do have a lot of years of experience in the industry. How have you seen harness racing in Ohio change over your career?
Over my career, harness racing has always been strong. Ohio is the heartbeat of harness racing in the United States because of the county fairs and the 4 parimutuel tracks. You have to keep in mind that we are in the gambling business, and we have 4 parimutuel tracks. And the wagering in the early years funded our purses at the racetrack and helped fund the sport. Back in the 1990s, when Las Vegas kind of moved east, what I mean by that, the states around us had expanded gaming, where they put in slot machines at the racetrack. And West Virginia was the first in a trial basis in 1990 or 92. And then Pennsylvania acquired them, Indiana acquired them. And at that time, their purses at the racetrack was going up because of the expanded gaming. And they were being, I don't like to use this word, but they were being subsidized with the expanded gaming. So in Ohio, in the late 90s and early 2000, we went to legislation and to see if we could expand gaming in Ohio. And it took a lot of effort. It took a lot of building relationships, partnerships, And one of the partnerships that we developed was with Farm Bureau because of the agricultural aspect of horse racing here in the state of Ohio and economic impact. Horse racing is agriculture, and with the help of Farm Bureau and building relationships, we were able to get legislation approved for expanded gaming. So that's really is what changed the sport in the last 20 years.
As much of a big business as harness racing has become with that expanded gaming, the breeding program in Ohio is extraordinary, isn't it?
Yes, it has. It's come to the top. We're getting a lot more, not more stallions, but we're getting better stallions to stand in Ohio and better mares to breed. And now we are competing with the states out east, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. So when people look at the industry today, they'll say Ohio has the best program, and I'm proud to say that. Now, in saying that, it makes you sharpen your tools a little bit because the competition is getting stiffer. And what I mean by that, better horses are coming in, so the breeders, they have to get better pedigrees, better mares, and breed to better stallions. It's just like selling corn seed. The seeds the technology has improved the seeds, and the same thing with horse breeding. The genetics is genetics.
You can hear in your voice your passion for the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association and the harness industry here in Ohio. You have done fantastic things throughout your career for this industry, and really appreciate you sharing the history of it and also the future of it with our listeners as well. Thank you, Dr. John Mossbarger with the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association. Always great to catch you up, and wish you well, sir.
Well, Ty, I just want to thank the Farm Bureau for what they've done and all the members of Farm Bureau to become partners with harness racing.